Well, Annalise, the New South Wales Supreme Court has ruled that today's protest to take place at Sydney's Town Hall will be unlawful because organisers can't prove that people will be adhering to that public health order. Now, the lawyers of these protest organisers say that people will be showing up and having their voices heard despite this legal ruling. They say it is the right of people in a democracy to be able to protest. Now, more than 5,000 people are set to attend this march. New South Wales Police will be out in force issuing fines to people doing the wrong thing.
We're going to march. We don't care what any acts of law tells us what to do, because those acts of laws are killing us.
We'll have significant police resources out to manage any situation, and again, I would ask the people to obey the law as we will be enforcing the provisions of the Supreme Court decision.
Black Lives Matter protests will also be held in Queensland today. Thousands of people are set to descend on King George Square at 1 p.m. That march will then snake through to Musgrave Park, where I am now. Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk is urging people to stay at home and instead show their activism through social media. Now, in Victoria, Premier Daniel Andrews, he says that people should not be attending these protests. They should stay home. In South Australia, however, an exemption has been granted for people to be able to protest. In Western Australia, the Northern Territory and Tasmania, people will be able to protest today, but they must adhere to social distancing rules. Now, these protests were sparked over the death in custody of African-American man George Floyd in the United States. It has sparked unrest across the globe, but here on home soil it does hold special meaning for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. There have been 432 deaths in custody since the 1991 Royal Commission into this issue, so no doubt plenty of frustrated, angry and passionate people showing up to protest today despite that medical advice. Annalise?
Despite this actually being just 3 hours away, the organisers of the Black Lives Matter protest have now launched an 11th-hour appeal to try and make this demonstration legal. The New South Wales, yesterday we actually saw a number of polarising conversations over whether or not this protest should be legal or not. Supreme Court Justice Des Fagan said yesterday that this was going to be deemed as illegal, and that's because the spread of COVID-19 spreading was simply too high, and also there was a last-minute route change to the march that didn't give organisers enough time to prepare. So those papers are going to be filed this morning with the New South Wales Court of Appeal, and we are going to get an answer, obviously, fairly quickly, given that this protest is set to get underway in just hours. Regardless of whether or not it is deemed legal or illegal, we are still set to see thousands coming out in Sydney here. On Tuesday night, we saw a similar protest taking place with thousands in Martin Place. Now, that did remain peaceful, and the hope is that this one will too, but there is going to be a very heavy police presence to ensure that.
We'll have significant police resources out to manage any situation, and again, I would ask the people to obey the law as we will be enforcing the provisions of the Supreme Court decision.
On the Facebook page for this event, 10,000 people had actually clicked attending. So it does give you an idea of just how big this protest could be. And of course, the concern is that because of that ruling yesterday deeming it illegal, that actually might antagonise the crowd, causing even more, fury. And obviously, the main concern is that we are trying to avoid at all costs what we have seen with some of the violent protests and riots that have taken place across the United States. All of this comes as New South Wales reaches a fairly good milestone in the fight against COVID-19, with no patients currently in ICU.
Charlotte Mortlock, thank you. Let's go live to Andrea Crothers in Melbourne, where thousands of protesters are expected. Andrea, organisers insist the rally is an essential service.
That's right, Annalise. It's fairly quiet down here at the moment. The rally's still a couple of hours away, but we are expecting around 40,000 people. That's how many people have registered their interest for this protest. Now, unlike New South Wales, this rally has been allowed to go ahead, although police say they will be potentially fining any organisers if this goes above 20 people, which is the social restrictions here for gathering. So obviously expected much larger than that. We've already got around that crowd here at the moment. Now, there has been a lot of criticism in the lead up to this rally around the state government's handling of it. Its response initially saying that not being too strongly worded against it, but yesterday joining with the Prime Minister and urging people to stay away, stay home. This is what one opposition MP had to say today.
The causes and the motivations for people that are wanting to protest today are completely reasonable. In fact, I support the reasons that people may want to protest today. But the idea that you protest 30,000 people potentially protesting during a pandemic, when the law in Victoria says that only 20 people can gather outside at any one time, for one, it's illegal, for two, it's entirely selfish, for three, it's wrong.
Now, of course, one of the big fears is about a potential spike in coronavirus here again. Today, Victoria also hit a major milestone. It's the first day since the pandemic began, but there's been no new cases in Victoria, Annalise.